All right, let's dive right in. Today, we are looking at a real world tech rescue mission. And trust me, if you've ever been in the trenches with microservices on Kubernetes, you are going to feel this. We're going to break down how one team used a service mesh, Istio in this case, to go from, constant chaos and fighting firing to a place of real architectural resilience. So here's our game plan. First, we'll set the scene and look at the landscape of chaos this team was living in. Then, we'll talk about the promise of order that a service mesh brought to the table. We'll walk through their awesome step-by-step rollout, check out the dramatic before and after, and then we'll wrap it all up with a playbook you can actually use. Man, does this sound familiar? For the platform team in our case study, this was basically their daily mantra. A single, tiny config change could ripple out and cause a massive outage. And then, good luck finding who or what was responsible. This quote just perfectly captures that feeling of frustration that finally pushed them to say, okay, we need a better way. So let's dive into that landscape of chaos. We're talking about all those hidden costs. The daily grind of running microservices when you don't have a central command center to manage them. It's a super common trap that a lot of teams fall into as they start to scale up. And what's wild here is how these problems create this vicious cycle. You've got inconsistent ingress configs, which means every team is just doing their own thing, making the whole system incredibly fragile. Releasing new features meant these manual, high-stakes traffic splits, super risky, super slow. Security rules? Oh, they were just sprinkled everywhere, which means you've got blind spots all over the place. And with no unified way to see what's going on, every incident was just this massive detective story, digging through logs. And the result of all that? A totally burned out on-call team just putting out fires 24/7 instead of building cool stuff. So, after hitting a pretty serious breaking point, the team knew they needed a fundamental change. And to get from that chaos to some semblance of control, they turned to a technology called a service mesh, and they specifically chose Istio. For anyone who's kind of new to this term, let's just quickly define it. A service mesh, like Istio, it's not actually part of your app's code. It's this separate, dedicated layer that handles all the chatter between your services. Think of it like a really smart, programmable network, kind of like a traffic cop for your microservices that gives you fine-grained control over traffic, security, and just seeing what the heck is going on. This slide really gets to the heart of it. This is the payoff. That whole mess of different ingresses, gone, replaced by one unified gateway. Those scary manual releases, they became automated canary deployments, where you can safely test a new version on just a tiny slice of users. All those scattered security rules got centralized with powerful encryption and clear policies. And those mysterious failures, they were finally dragged into the light with rich telemetry and tracing. You can see how Istio was a direct answer to every single one of their biggest headaches. So how'd they actually do it? Well, this wasn't some big bang migration. I mean, can you imagine? That would have been way too risky. Instead, they took this really smart step-by-step approach, building confidence and showing value every step of the way. They broke the whole journey down into 4 distinct phases. First, just get visibility. Let's just see what's happening. Second, get control over the traffic flow. Third, lock it all down with security. And only then, once all that was in place, did they move on to automating safer, more advanced deployments. This phased approach was absolutely key to their success. Now, this is so important. In step 1, they didn't enforce a single rule. They just installed Istio and let it watch. And for the very first time, they had a complete, living map of how all their services were talking to each other. And that alone was a huge win. It showed them all these hidden bottlenecks and weird dependencies they never even knew they had. Okay, so with that new map in hand, they moved on to step 2. They went right after the biggest source of their pain, ingress. By creating a single, centralized Istio gateway, they got to replace dozens of different inconsistent setups with one standard, predictable set of rules. And that immediately started to cut down on production incidents. Now that traffic was flowing through a controlled, predictable path, it was time to secure it. So in step 3, they turned on mutual TLS, which is a fancy way of saying services have to show their ID to each other before they can talk, and all that communication is encrypted. Then they layered on policies to define exactly who could talk to whom, which let them build a real zero-trust security model. Okay, so they did all this work. What was the actual payoff? Let's get into the results and see the real, tangible impact this whole journey had, not just on the tech, but on the teams too. And the shift was just dramatic. Mean time to resolution, so the time it takes to fix a problem, went from hours, sometimes days, down to minutes. The on-call load went from being this high-stress, unpredictable nightmare to something low and manageable. And this is huge for the business. Feature delivery became fast and safe, all because those automated Canary deployments replaced the old, risky manual rollouts. I love this quote from one of the lead engineers because it really nails the cultural shift. They moved from being reactive, scrambling to figure out what went wrong after it's already broken, to being proactive. They were now using policy to define what good looks like and preventing entire categories of failures from ever even happening. Now that is the real power of a service mesh. So let's wrap this all up. Let's distill their entire journey into a simple playbook. What are the key lessons here that you can take away if you're thinking about starting a similar journey for your own platform team? So here it is, the playbook. Number 1, start with observability, not enforcement. You have to see before you can control. 2, go after one high-pain problem at a time, like ingress, to get a quick, valuable win. 3, when you roll out security, use permissive mode first. This lets you see what would have been blocked without actually breaking anything. 4, standardize safe deployment patterns like canaries for your dev teams. And finally, number 5, and this is a big one, treat this service mesh like an internal product that you offer to your developers, complete with good docs and support. And that's our look at the path from chaos to control. This case study really gives us a fantastic blueprint. So the only question left is the one you see right here. You've seen the playbook. What's the first step you can take to start taming your own chaos? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.